host, Brian Porter, and tonight we have a sovereign think tank. I have three of the top sovereign experts on the planet with us. We're going to discuss a number of issues, and I'm just thrilled. I've got three top minds in the area of the sovereign movement, how to become completely free of the corrupt system that we now live under, the matrix, or whatever name you want to use. So I'm going to introduce one at a time. David William. David William is, this guy has many, many talents. I met him through my association with the Liberty Beacon, a site I strongly recommend, thelibertybeacon.com, for all the news and what's really happening in the news when things are happening, be it false flag incidents like Orlando, or what's happening with Donald Trump and all the stories. What's really behind what's going on in the mainstream news? David, how you doing? Are you with me, David? Are you off mute? Is anybody there?
Oh, that mute thing. Sorry.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
David,
I didn't want you to have to hear me typing away while you were introducing the show. So.
Did you hear my intro?
Yes, I heard.
Okay.
I didn't mute you. I muted me.
Anything else I should say? Did I say enough?
Yeah, plenty. Yeah.
Okay, so there's my first guest, David William. And my next two, Neko and Zeeka. They are residents or living down in Costa Rica right now, and they have a great site called Soul Reign. www.soulreign. They've been on twice already. And how are Neko and Zeeka doing tonight?
We're doing great.
Oh, we're excellent.
We got to clarify the resident thing.
Yeah, we're not
residents.
Oh, sorry. Right.
A resident's there to do a job, pay taxes, and leave.
Okay. All right. You're hanging out in Costa Rica.
Yeah, we're just hanging.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you see, I'm not a sovereign expert, so I'm a little loose with my language.
You just have to be a sovereign.
Yeah, I just have to be a sovereign. Yeah. Well, I'm moving there. I'm moving in that direction. Believe me.
It's all in your mind and your heart.
So how are things down in Costa Rica, Neko and Zeeka?
Oh, fantastic.
Excellent.
The weather's doing beautiful, 74 degrees all the time. Birds chirping. It's great.
How many sovereigns are down there?
Oh, we're still looking for where's the rest of our tribe?
There's probably a few.
There's a few. Every so often we meet people who understand. Talk about things on the bus or something. Hey, let's have a conversation. But for the most part, it's not really people aren't really interested in that.
Well, the great thing is you don't have to have people around you to offer your advice because of Skype and the worldwide internet. I mean, I know all three of you are involved in helping people in certain situations, which is really nice. So, So David, what have you been up to? What sort of lawsuits are you working on right now?
Actually, I'm working with people on a few of them, which is kind of normal way of doing things. I'm changing the way I'm doing things a little bit, though. A lot of people want help with things that they can't comprehend, and they don't want to learn a lot. So you have to pick and choose who will actually work with you as opposed to expect you to do all the work. And right. And some people get themselves into big trouble. And they are very difficult to work with. But most of the problem, I think that what I'm going to start doing is switching around quite a bit so that instead of working with all of these cases that are up, I'm going to start focusing more on being more effective at educating the people in general. Because it doesn't matter how straight you set your situation or your status. You're still a little island among people who are generally uninformed and probably woefully so. So, very recently, I can share a situation where you have the CPS is involved. In fact, they were here yesterday. I'm staying with some people who are very nice people who are truly victims of.
Well, can we just say who that is? Child Protective Services, just for someone who doesn't know what that means. Okay.
Okay, yeah, forgive me for that. I
No, that's
shouldn't
okay.
know. What happened is the father and mother of the newborn, they were going to have a baby at home with a midwife, but the final stages got very uncomfortable and difficult and a bit scary for the mother. So they took her to a hospital. Now, at the hospital, their routine is to create birth certificates and vaccinations and signing all kinds of waivers and all this and that. And they don't know what to do with people who don't want that. Because most people are, in the general population, maybe not necessarily the listeners to your show, but a lot of them don't realize that the birth certificate is the beginning of a lot of trouble for your babies. And they wouldn't sign a birth certificate. They wouldn't sign any disclaimers. They wouldn't consent to any vaccinations. And they wanted to take the placenta, or the afterbirth home, as you refer to it. So it basically left the state with nothing, meaning the state needs to capitalize on your being. The mother goes to the hospital to have a baby, and she thinks that she's doing the right thing by filling out all this paperwork, when in fact she's committing political suicide for her offspring. Mom takes the baby home, but she abandons the bastard child in its birth. Now, what does that mean? I guess I'm going to have to talk like I'm talking to some people out there who don't know anything about this. The baby is the living being, the your kid, and that baby is going to live here on the land wherever you live. We'll say America, and the baby is really born ready to be a state citizen. But then along comes the birth certificate, where they take the black footprints off the living baby, which is the land. And the black footprints represent the child. Child is not to be confused with the baby, and you have to understand legalese. So the child itself, that birth certificate, touches land once, which is the baby's feet, and it's presumed lost at sea, and it has a salvage. So really what that is the in this case where I brought up the afterbirth of the placenta, that is the decedent. Decedent means dying, not dead. So that is what gets the Social Security number. That is what becomes the U.S. citizen, because it's a corporate dead entity, civilly dead entity. That's the U.S. citizen, the person, the individual, the ward of the state, the enemy of the state, all that. So,
well, that pertains to anyone born in Western society, is it not? Almost every country on earth uses the same system.
Well, yeah, but I, for the sake of intellectual honesty and credibility, I'm not going to attempt to speak for other countries that are not, as we call, common law countries. So the United States is not a country, it's a corporation, but I'll compare it to Canada, Australia, South Africa, England.
Yeah.
The other political bordered, penned-in areas, as I call it, in the UK.
They're mostly republics, right?
Well, they're supposed to be, but they don't want to let you over there. So they
everybody left there and went to the corporation.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there aren't many. That's why I'm saying, you can have your stuff all straightened out, but if you're surrounded by everyone else that, they don't support or understand what you're doing, and that includes the 100 Club, which are the police. They have the IQ of 105 or less usually, and they don't want police who are critical thinkers who will question the law, because the law and statutes are two different things. So the police got involved. The police came here yesterday, and no one was here but me. So I went to the door and I talked to them for about 10 minutes. I was asking them a lot of questions.
Oh, David, can I just ask you, just to clarify, did they actually not do all the things that they asked them to do at the hospital? Did they refuse to sign for a birth certificate, all that stuff?
Correct.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Yeah. In fact, you'll be seeing more of their story on my page, one of my pages. I have 34 Facebook pages. That actually makes it easier. Don't shake your head thinking it makes it harder. It actually makes it easier because they're all separate categories. As I explained, I have over 20 email addresses, and whenever I get an email at a certain email address, I already know what it's about.
Yeah.
So it makes things much simpler. You don't want one big file in the cabinet. You have 26 letters, right? So anyway, you'll see more of their stuff on the page. It's called Jackass CPS. And you might say, why do I name it that? Well, anyone who's familiar with CPS knows that it's an organization that does, in fact, help kids in need from abusive parents or whatever. But by and large, that's not really what they're all about. They're child traffickers. And they make a lot of money off the babies because it's Title IV Social Security fraud, money for putting kids into foster homes, big money for putting kids in institutions, especially when they can take $150,000 a year for a kid for a particular alleged problem. And then spend only $50,000 a year on the kid. So they're experts. It's just like prison. It's a warehouse. You're a warehouse receipt with that birth certificate.
Yeah, I used to work in that field. I used to have my own treatment home for kids, young lads, and it's a most people don't realize how corrupt that field is. That there's quite a range of payments being allocated. I was at the bottom of the list because I wasn't kicking back any money. But if you have the right connections, you get the best contracts, the best deals, and there's always a kickback going back in the other direction.
Well, when a corporation has a subsidiary like Health and Human Services, and the corporation itself is a child trafficking entity, which is the United States, because they're trafficking all of the population.
Yeah.
Because everyone gets these birth certificates. And then they turn you into little state employees. And then they tax you and they license you and they control you and regulate you because you're all prisoners of war. The martial law rule that started in 1863 under the Lieber Code is still in effect.
Yeah. And
the United States is no longer what it was. In fact, it ended before the what's called the Civil War. It ended long before that. And what they did was they managed to put it into 3 70-year bankruptcies, which that 3 times you go under, you're drowned, you're dead, you're underwater. So the conquest is fully completed. The first major conquest was, in fact, the War of Northern Federal Aggression, and that was about property rights, not slavery. It had nothing to do with slavery. That's a big lie. And Lincoln was an agent of the Crown, the bar attorney, Esquire. And he tried to claim that he was saving the country, by destroying it. So it was to take property rights away from all of the states. And the South said, dropped dead and walked out in 1861. And to quote Granny Clampett from the Beverly Hillbillies, the Civil War was when the North attacked America. Okay? And you have to understand. Yeah.
David, let's get back to the CPS thing because you're sort of getting a little off topic here.
Not really.
About that. I know it's connected, but where is that at now? I'm trying to just keep
CPS
it specific.
Is into child trafficking. So they want to be able to control your baby and take your baby away. And a lot of babies are coming up missing, and they're being sold into adoption and foster parenting.
Yeah. I've heard as many as 1 million people a year go missing in the U.S.
Well, I don't know the statistics, but I've seen enough of it so that I'm speaking from experience. I've watched it, and I've dealt with them because they'll use CPS against you should you get effective at whipping the family court's butts. And if you don't know what you're doing, they will effectively win. And while I'm discussing this, I will tell you in front of all of your listeners that there is an effective means of dealing with them. You don't deal with CPS in these courts because those aren't courts at all. And regardless of what you want to think or believe, those are not courts. Those are mock military tribunals in a bankruptcy because the captors, the Crown Vatican Swiss banks that took over the District of Columbia in 1871, are still in control of all this. So the second conquest now was in 1933 with the banking emergency. That's when FDR amended the Trading with the Enemy Act so that all U.S. citizens are the enemy of the state, meaning the persons, the corporations. They seize control of commerce. Now, you're not a U.S. citizen. Now, I'm speaking to people from the 50 states, the several states. You can't be a U.S. citizen. It's impossible. So if you claim that you are, you're basically giving consent to be under the Lieber Code and to be surety for the debt. Because just keep it on a local level, we'll say state of Georgia, state of Tennessee, state of Missouri. That's in all capital letters, state of. Not to be confused with the republic, with the actual nation state. So all the state of is that state's bar association. And that sounds far-fetched.
They also changed it to mean District of Columbia. So if you say public, it's District of Columbia. If you say state, state of is District of Columbia. Like California state is California Republic.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely.
And then that's how they get jurisdiction past their 10 square miles. So they only have 10 square miles.
No, you have to give it to them.
Yeah, but by saying public or state, that's how they got the jurisdiction over somebody that they didn't have jurisdiction over. By trickery and wordplay.
Well, that's also true. The thing is now is public means private in this case because it's a private corporation in bankruptcy and it's a foreign corporation. So when you say you're a member of the public, you just said you're a private employee of Uncle Sam. So state of Indiana, that is a subsidiary franchise political subdivision of United States of America 4. Or the United States, more popularly known when it was created, but it's been under 3 bankruptcies already. So it is now, the conquest is done. There are no property rights for any of the U.S. citizens. So
because they're all debtors.
When was the third bankruptcy? You said 33 was the second. When's the third?
Well, that was the third. You had the first one was the Constitution.
Oh, okay.
1789.
Oh, okay.
It's a bankruptcy document. A constitutor is a debtor or one who assumes the debt for another. So that's what it is. And now that you've been told that, when you read the whole thing, and I'm not going to tell you where because I want you to read the whole thing. Anyway, you'll find it in there. It'll thumb you in the eye when you see it. That Constitution was put to rest right around, I'm going to just generalize the time because the actual mechanism of it coming apart takes a good while to describe. But I just call it the War of 1812, okay? Because the chief causes of the War of 1812 were the two facts that are above and beyond all else. One is Alexander Levine's bank, the first central banks of the United States. That 20-year charter ran out in 1811, and it was a debt-based banking institution under Rothschild. And Alexander Levine, or Hamilton, was an operative of Rothschild. And he convinced the powers that be at the time that the more you owe, the more you're worth, which is double speak for debt-based fractional banking. So then things had gotten so out of control and out of hand with foreign crown agents getting involved with everything that they created the teeth for what was in Article 1, which forbade foreign agents from holding offices of trust, and that would be the authentic original Article 13. Now, there are only 13 articles of amendment in the Constitution. There's no
that one was actually ratified.
It was, and I have all of the proof, actually. I have records from the secretaries of state and the books and the publications and the circumstantial stuff on top of it. Letters from the governors in Madison and Virginia and Adams' letter to a lawyer and all that, and other historical documents. In fact, another one of my Facebook pages is Article 13, uppercase A and lowercase, the rest of the letters except for X, I. And there are quite a few files in there that demonstrate what I'm saying. So that has a double meaning, by the way. And the reason I'm going into that is because the Article 13 forbids titles of nobility, titles of honor, titles of emolument, and any foreign agent or those loyal to a foreign agency from holding offices of trust. Also, the biggest, most important title of nobility, and I'm not saying this to create political conflict here, but it's the way it is. People say, well, it wasn't a Christian nation. It never said Christian anywhere. Well, Christian is what the Romans called them. They're the fellow citizens in Christ in heaven. So the people, that's who the people are. So Christians are forbidden from being citizens of the United States. They can't be. Because they cannot be involved in debt. So a Christian is not allowed to be involved with any kind of debt. That's why you see the present bankers that are running things. They want to push Sharia law and Noahide law because it's all about usury and penalties and all that and debtors' jails and all that. It's all nonsense. And it's run by the Zionists. And that's who's running CPS, of course, because the Zionists and the Jesuits are in bed together. And they run the Bar Association. Because the bar that runs United States and Federal Reserve, which is U.S. Inc., in the United States is USA Inc., that is the Middle Temple Bar in the City of London, the Inns of the Court. They're pushing the canon ecclesiastic law, disguised as equity law and admiralty maritime law, which it's all lies. And the reason it's very difficult to get out of that situation is because of the general population again. Because what should happen, and I say this even in a courtroom, is the guys on the bench, the bank, are pirates and criminals and should be hanged. Because much of what they do, seriously, much of what they do is a hangable offense. They're doing impressment or press ganging, which is hangable. Barratry is barratry and coercion into the office of the person. That's That's theft and enslavement. That's enticement to slavery. They should be rounded up and stuck in a hole somewhere.
Okay, David, let me.
Well, I'm serious, because
Yeah,
what they're doing is these are the ones stealing your kids. These are the ones who are instructing police to shoot you should you not stop for a commercial stop sign. And you don't obey them.
There are many, many issues. My biggest concern is that they're basically championing the destruction of the biosphere. None of us can live without that.
Well, they need to kill your goyim.
We've lived for many, many millennia with lots of murder and war and whatnot. But man, we can't live without the biosphere, folks. Nobody's going to win that battle.
Well,
but let me.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was going to talk about something. But wait, and then let me just one sentence and then go on.
Okay.
We have a problem, and we're speaking to your other guest here down Costa Rica, I guess.
Yeah.
The World Wildlife Federation and Monsanto and the mercenary group called Blackwater are all in bed together. And they want to poison the crap out of the Central and South America and GMO them to death. And we have to figure out a way to get this word out, because they're between the GMOs and the chemicals and whatever you outlaw here, no problem. We'll just sell it somewhere else. And we have a problem.
Yeah.
The same people behind CPS. It's all the same people. It's the Crown, Vatican, Swiss bankers.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's the Hegelian dialect, problem, reaction, solution. So they'll create the problem, and then we'll come in and save you. Hey, we just need to tax you for breathing. Don't worry about it.
And you're right. There is a huge problem down here in the Central and Southern Americas with chemicals and GMOs, and this country, amongst a couple of other ones, are hugely non-regulated for chemicals and poison and everything else that they're spraying into the dirt here. And there's a lot of people down here trying to preserve the natural rainforests and won't even allow it to touch 5 meters of their property. But there's a lot of people who are uninformed and uneducated and lower class farmers that just want to get by and use the Roundup and stuff like that. So you're right.
Yeah, the stuff grows so fast here that instead of getting out with a machete all day with a knife, they're going to just spray it with Roundup. And
Agent Orange.
They're like, oh, this is great. I don't have to work.
Yeah,
for 3
Agent
months,
Orange, basically Agent Orange.
Basically. DDT or
all the same guys who made it.
What have you? Yeah, it's awful.
I just heard someone talk about just yesterday about, these kids that are being taken, and these are the psychopathic kids that are being nurtured and cultured into these crazies, and they have no regard for human life. So, over here you could say the police and the judges and the attorneys, they're not really judges, but they're psychopaths because they're ruining the land and the nation for their kids and their grandchildren. Mm-hmm. So there you have to have something seriously wrong with you to be a guy on a black robe and a bench.
A crazy administrator of your rights.
Well, yes. Yes.
That's where the compartmentalized, the specialization, the expertise, all these systems are completely wrong, in my opinion. Because
when you said system,
if you do not have an overall perspective on what's really going on, I don't think all these judges know what's going on. I think they focus on their one little area of family law, corporate law, whatever.
Oh, they know. I can prove it.
They know, yeah. They know. We thought that at first, too. But then when we were reading their long books that they have to read and that they know about, I mean, they're very educated. And you're like reading their books and you go, oh, wow, okay, so they think everybody's a lunatic and they take the lawyer and they have a whole collusive thing going on and everybody's paid from the same, whether it's federal or state, there's never a fair trial because everybody's paid from the same source and it's usually the plaintiff pays everybody.
Which makes it commercial activity, which goes back to the human trafficking.
You can nail them with just a few questions. One, do you enforce commercial code upon private living people? And watch them squirm. Are you a member of the Crown Temple Bar from City of London? Watch them squirm. Well, if you're a bar attorney, the prosecutor's a bar attorney, and the public defender's a bar attorney. Is this a court of law? Watch him squirm. Okay. Can I have the bond information that you're posting against this case? Now watch him get ready to get up and run out.
Yeah.
Because they're lying. They're liars. They're pathologic liars. They have to lie. They're not able to tell the truth. And their mothers and fathers are proud of them for being a lawyer when little do they know lawyer is legalese for an attorney. By the way, just so you'll know also, look at Black's Law Dictionary. Go back 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5th. They changed some of it in the 5th. They're talking about the definition of a lawyer. And they'll refer to, I think it's Chapter 14, Section 9 in the Statutes at Large of 1868. And it says what a lawyer is in there. Well, guess what? It's not in the Statutes at Large. And then guess what else? There's no legislative authority to allow a bar association in. So they have no authority at all under the Constitution, but they claim it. They don't even have it in their fake de facto Constitution. Also, they do not pass the requirements and criteria for the Naturalization Act of 1802. So there's nothing about them. So that's why it's so fun to go in there and abuse them. Because you get them in contract before you walk in there. You just have to be better at contracting than they are. And it's not hard to do because they don't study as much as they should. They
default every time. They're not going to answer the proper questions correctly, and then by the end of that, you're in at least a tacit agreement, some sort of default by acquiescence. They're never going to answer your questions correctly. So that's
why you already have them on the contract before you get in there. You give them 3 international law notices of claim by 3 notary presentments, and they won't rebut them, and now it stands as truth and law, and that's in contract. Not even they can override it. So you ask questions, for the record. That's all.
Oh, but, can we just get back to the CPS matter, David? Because I just want to know, have you actually had any success with this sort of case, getting kids back from the state, or
they promised never to come back?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Because I was talking to them. I asked him. I said, "Do you have title to the child?" And you could see him looking, and he's writing. And then I said, "Are you familiar with who you're looking for?" They said, "Well, we're looking for the child." The child. Do you know what child means? And I explained it's not the baby. The woman asked for the baby, but you're not getting your hands on the baby. You're looking for the child. And you don't have title to the child. Also, do you know what Sestwi KV Trust is? Do you know what the birth certificate really is? Do you have any idea what it really is? It's a negotiable instrument that goes on the open market, and it's supposed to satisfy the debt requirements for the Crown banks. So I gave them some more information to write down and to go home and look it up, because I told them that if they do anything unlawful, I am watching this case, and CPS isn't going to get prosecuted. You are, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it, and you're going to run to your legal team, your legal staff, and they're not going to know what to do about it either. Because, as I was trying to tell you, you can get them, you can take away all of their credibility. You have to have clean hands in equity. If you come in equity, you must have clean hands, and you must bring equity. So they are in violation of Public Law 92-500, which is international law. Strict liability statutes codified under Title 33. Now, let's talk about the bar. The bar's job, the 2 biggest responsibilities that they have, is to protect the concealment of the bankruptcy, number 1. And number 2, it is to protect the society of civil engineers. You see, the Federal Water Pollution Control Act was created by JFK, which is one of the chief causes that he got killed. There were 5 or 6 reasons why he got killed. Okay? The biggest industry on the planet is wastewater. You keep people sick. You charge them money for sewage and septic and discharges and handling all of the effluent and the discharges and the water, the drinking water. So as of, I think it's 71, I'm not sure if it's 71 or 73, but Nixon empowered the EPA by taking it apart and putting it in the hands of the individual states. So the bar courts are there in all of the municipalities, key term. That's Rome. If it's a municipality, it's Rome. So what they're doing is they're protecting the civil engineers because they're designing septic and sewer connections for all of the homes and commercial businesses. You're not supposed to have a septic or a sewer as of 1971 because you're filling the groundwater with nasty stuff, like 70 plus putrid chemicals and bacteria. What is the word for the bacteria that thrives in a zero oxygen environment?
Anaerobic.
Yes, thank you.
Anaerobic. Okay.
Right, and this stuff is leaching into the ground, and it goes into the water table, and a lot of it's odorless and colorless. So he created a world patented, international patented device called the reclamator. So what it does is it takes the discharge from your toilets, and it goes into the reclamator, and what it does is not only does it turn the effluent and the discharge into potable, drinkable water, it brings it to a 7.7 pH scale level, which makes it good for your body, and it generates electricity at the same time. So what you do is and this is going to be coming out, so you guys will be among the first to hear it. You get a private investigator to go to the judge's house and look at the house, just to look at it, and where he works, at the courthouse, and wherever else he owns property. And he goes to the county, and he looks at the red line drawings. Now, I said private investigator because why? He's a state licensed expert witness. So he has to sit down and talk. And the decision from any court case has to be shaped largely upon what he says. And it gets better. He brings a notary public with him. A notary is just as powerful as the guy on the bench, only slightly more. Also the estate of a dead man's trust. So what he knows is fictitious events. It's like when you go to jail, you go to trial, they charge you, but they never give you a bill. Well, why? Because they're monetizing your estate trust, and they're embezzling and committing securities counterfeiting, not to mention fraud. But so what they do is they go around and they check everything in the county and the state and everything that he owns. And they see that he is not in compliance. And then he has 30 days to prove that he is in compliance. He won't. And now he's a felon.
Based on sewer law? Is that what you're saying?
Based on flushing his nasty stuff out of his toilet. Right, because that's why the lawyers now, what you don't know is in England, in the Crown, this is also known as the United States Wastewater Utility. That's where the word system comes from. It's Rome. Mm-hmm. So on May 3rd, 2 years after the capital moved from Pennsylvania to the territory of Columbia, or the District of Columbia, now in the state of New Columbia, in May 3rd, a week after the Naturalization Act, on May 3rd of 1802, United States became basically United States of Rome as a municipality. So all of the municipalities have you in the water under admiralty law on grid by connecting you with water that's also connected to sewer and septic. So throughout the land, the two are being mixed up. And hundreds of years ago in England, they started figuring out that if they're polluting everything, which they were, people get very sick. And then the healthcare industry and insurance industry gets loaded and rich, which is really what the healthcare industry is based upon, is pharmaceuticals and insurance, like Obamacare, for instance.
Well, that's interesting about the municipality thing because, okay, I want to say something about that birth certificate. So on mine, I was looking at it and it says, you were born in corporate city limits. Oh, corporate city limits. Well, isn't that interesting? So now I'm part of the corporation and I'm born into it, correct? And then we've got, so the birth certificate is pretty much a bill of lading, right? So puts us back into the water. It's a ship terminology, right? So now they've got us on the water with this bill of lading, this birth certificate. And on there it says my mom is an informant. So if you go look in the frickin' law dictionary what an informant is, it means your mother put up a civil claim against you for doing her wrong, for harm, for causing harm, and has pretty much abandoned you. That's why they put the maiden name on there, and now you are a bastard child who has no heir to the estate because everything is trust law. So these are actually go back to the Sister Trust, how he's saying, and I'm probably mispronouncing it. But then they pretty much monetize this sucker, and it has the bond paper all around it. You've got what banknote you are there at the bottom, and that's why they have no father on there. So that's why they have the mother's maiden name. Now,
maiden voyage.
Maiden voyage, exactly. And so since you're born into the corporate city limits, they've now made you a debtor, and a debtor cannot own property.
Not the baby. You can't enslave the baby.
Okay, the straw man.
Slave the straw man.
This child.
So he's the debtor. Yeah. Now, I posted a video that get Brian to have me give something to you later so you can watch exactly what they do.
Well, I'm glad you guys met because, you should show
facts. Part of the tribe.
So you're the guy lost at sea. Now, the Pope marries the sea, right? He's the head of the Holy See. He's the corporation's soul. So he owns all of the lost souls. Yep. Now, just to segue quickly to Nene, the Lakota.
Oh, we're going to get to that in the next part.
He'll walk you right in there, walk right into the court and say, hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. I am the living man. I call out your soul for payment. And then the guy in New York ran out of the courtroom and came back without a black robe.
As I understand it, when they leave, they go back and change to canon law, from what I understand.
Well, right. But then you have to be ready for that. Now, for canon, I want you to forgive the dummy here. Your name, the young lady.
Zeka, Neko and Zeeka. Okay, guys, you're going too fast here. You're even losing me, and I've got some.
And I do. I want to go back to one thing too about that CPS thing. Okay, how we would handle that is a little bit different, and I do want to clarify that before it gets to break. Okay. So they own the word child, and we've already established that they own the word child, and that they have established that this child is this thing, and they don't know if that's a straw man child or their child or a real baby or a child. They're just thinking, I own this child. Right. And so they come in with this bill of lading for this child, right? And so what we understand is the best way to handle it is to call them property. And so everybody will say, don't call the damn thing property. You better call it property and not a child. And say, I want property back, and I will put you, hold on, and I'll put you in your individual capacity the same way that David here says, and I will take you have a claim against my property, and then you take him in and you do the claim against the person for taking your property. That's what I understand.
Well, you're not that. It's not that you and I are presenting two different things. It's that's the rest of the story. I asked them, I said, whose property is the baby? And they said,
theirs.
they said the parents. I said, no. Who's the parent? Patriae. You have a patriarchal society. It's the Pope. The Pope is the parent of the child, not the baby. The child is about to be eradicated in many cases, but there is no child here. There's no birth certificate. So you have a firm grip on nothing, as they explained it. You have a grip. You own nothing. So it is your property. And then I had a woman once at a representative's house committee once say, well, a child is not property. I says, well, it's funny you say that. It certainly isn't your property. So what makes you think you can come and take it from the mom and the dad? So all the terms will get you hung up because English is a slave language. It's easier to hang yourself than you think. So,
yeah.
So you're right again. So the birth certificate in this case does not exist. So that's why you want your birth certificate and your mother's birth certificate and the baptismal records. That's how you're going to prove life, because
We would just go in there with a picture. Give me my property back. Here's the picture of this. I want my property back now. And I wouldn't even argue any of the education of anybody of anything. I'd say, do you have the property? Whose property is it? And then there's no other questions other than one question. And it makes it so much easier, is how we would handle it.
You have to make sure that the guy in probate knows this. Remember, the probate judge is the guy who deals with the dead. That's why when you're going into a divorce court, why are you going to see a probate judge? Well, because you're going to be creating little decedents. So he doesn't have a clerk, by the way. The clerk is in charge of the court, not the guy in the black robe.
Clerk is like the judge.
Well, the clerk is the judge. I'll tell you why. Because when the judge writes an order, you're going to see two things next to the order. You're going to see the clerk of the court stamp, and then you're going to see the notary stamp.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have to educate your notaries, too, because when a notary's doing a corporate job, they use the stamp. When they're doing something for you, the living woman, they're supposed to use their thumbprint.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And
including yourself when you put
to
your
continue along
with
finish up, at the end of the situation when the guy on the bench does not have the ability to prove compliance, 3 notary publics make the adjudication. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, 3 of them make the adjudication. And then it's where the proverbial poop hits the fan for the guy in the black robe, because now he's a felon. He's convicted as a felon. So now you just tell him summarily to shut up.
Have you ever been able to enforce this?
Well, that's what we're doing now. That's what we're doing now. In fact, I'm going to be putting
posted. I want to hear how that. It seems like they're so
putting legs onto it in July, and I have a variety of situations where I picked a case that is sophisticated, which, by the way, is not a good word. It's sophisticated with fraud that they created, and so that it's going to grease the skids a little of the way, so that even if our method fails, round 2 hits them between the eyes.
Now,
so,
what are you saying for jurisdiction on a case like that?
Well, that's simple. Where do they have jurisdiction? You said it a little while ago. You're not a dummy. They have it on the District of Columbia. So the courts, every time you get pulled over for a traffic ticket, what is that? That's taxation. And your person is being held for the bankruptcy for taxation, because that's what that ticket and fine is. It's taxation for the debt. It's a
burden, right?
Right.
Burden.
Right. So the court is a bankruptcy administrator at the bench. So they work for the International Monetary Fund. So where is the taxation? On the District of Columbia. So you can't tax someone who's not a U.S. citizen on the District of Columbia, right? Because anybody U.S. citizen is a resident alien of the District of Columbia, which means they're a foreigner, they're an alien. Now, another thing, a Christian cannot be an alien. I went back to that to add more and pile up on articles.
David, you're losing me, man. You're going.
I'm actually meaning, David. I'm actually meaning, what jurisdiction do you open the case in? So you know how you have to put jurisdiction, facts.
You don't open any case. They can't open the case.
Where are you putting your claim against him to get him a felony?
Oh, they started. They started it. The felony is the private investigator and 3 notaries.
Okay, I was just wondering how you enforce it, because I thought when you enforce it,
It's not about enforcement. It's not about enforcement. It's adjudicated. There's nothing to enforce. They're done.
Well, kind of like Kevin Arnett's courts with the Pope and all.
No. I wish I could talk to them and clean up some of what they're leaving out.
Okay, right?
3 notaries make an adjudication And you can see it in Public Law 92-500 right in the very beginning. I have the page written down here, but it's dark in this room right now, and I'm tethered to the computer with the headset. They're the Secretary of State. They are the Secretary of State. They're under the seal. So the Secretary of State himself could be anybody. It could be your dog. But the seal, the office of the Secretary of State, that's what they're under. So 3 notaries make the adjudication. So now the judge on the bench is now convicted. He's convicted in actual law, Public Law 92-500.
But does he just go on with his life and it doesn't affect him, or does there a way to say?
You just took away his ability to have clean hands and bring equity in a court. He's dead. You just killed him.
Okay.
In a legal sense. Yeah. This is an interesting contrast.
I like to enforce things.
It's a topic I find to be most enlightening and most important for us to understand. And believe me, it is not simple. But I have 3 of the great experts on the planet with us tonight. So we'll just, if you get lost a bit, folks, don't worry about it. I'll give you contact information for them so you can send them questions. Maybe you can get their Skype address if they're up for that. So are you guys up for putting up your Skype name on in public? Anyone?
What do you mean putting it up in public?
What do you want to tell people? Your Skype address or your Skype handle?
People can email us to our contact box.
I have 3,000 notifications per day already.
Okay. You don't need any more, David.
Well,
okay.
I had to take the Evelyn Wood speed reading quiz just to check my method.
Okay.
Now I'm a believer in word recognition.
I do know that Neko and Zeeka can be reached. Zeeka can be reached. soulrain.com. Is that your preferred way of?
Yeah. You can just contact us through there. There's this contact form, soulreign.com, because the soul reigns in the body, and that means sovereign.
Beautiful. And David has his articles on the Liberty Beacon, so I'm sure you can connect with him through his articles. And he's got all sorts of, like you say, he's on Facebook and things of that sort. So, anyways, I got to get my plug in for the station. I hope everyone appreciates the quality of the shows that we have at Revolution Radio and is willing to, I suggest taking in $5 a month for the archives. Share them with your friends. Download them. That's a great thing to listen to while you're in your car or at home. I mean, the show you like is off. Maybe it's at 2 in the morning our time or your time. And, I like to listen to it at a more convenient time. This is your way to harmonize your life and get some great information. So please subscribe to the archives and buy some seats to the front porch. That's so you just go to the Revolution Radio site and click on donate, and you'll see all the different options on the site. Okay, let's get back to the show here. We're going to get off the issue of the CPS because we have so many other interesting things to get into. I want to talk a bit about the Winston Shroud case and get your view on that. And I'll start with the crowd from the couple from Costa Rica. What's your view on that?
Okay, so it was really devastating to see that because I downloaded his whole report of what happened and everything, and I went through it month by month of what he had done and what they had done, and he didn't ask for a bill of particulars until 3 months in. And so he's very knowledgeable and knows all kinds of stuff about negotiable instrument law and so special, such an interesting specialized law, and it's all financial. But he missed what a lot of people do. They missed this procedure thing. So he went in there and accidentally granted jurisdiction. He probably posted bail, got out, and then by that, he was already in their jurisdiction. He didn't go by their rules when he was already in their jurisdiction, which is a bummer. Because if you're going to grant him jurisdiction, they cannot hear you unless you're speaking their language. So it's a Nisi Prius court, and by taking that plea deal, or by taking the and leaving, not guilty, and leaving and posting bail, he agreed to be in that nisi prius court. And what he should have done is stayed in a court of record, and that is a common law court. And what he should have done, so before you ever get into their little corporate jurisdiction of maritime law and admiralty law, you never want to go in there if you can help it. So he should have been at that point, give me the bill of particulars and the verified complaint. Nothing more, because that wouldn't have been granting jurisdiction. He wasn't answering any questions. And then what happened is when he motioned, by motioning, it's pleading and begging, and it's really a bummer. But when you're in that jurisdiction, you have to. And so he basically motioned for a bill of particulars. A bill of particulars is every single thing that all the dirt that they have on him. And so he said, finally, after 3 months, okay, give me all the dirt that you have on me. Give me that bill of particulars. Judge says, nope. Would not give him all of the information of everything that they have against him. And so if he had asked within 14 days, if he was so smart about law, he should have known in 14 days in that court, he had to ask for that, and he could have demanded it, and they would have had to have given him the bill of particulars, at which point he could have said, oh, this is a bunch of tripe, I motion to dismiss for lack of subject matter jurisdiction. And he didn't do that, and then he got stuck in the jurisdiction, and he's still fighting his way out. So he's not in jail yet. I know it's supposed to be a 2-week trial that started on the 1st, and as I understand it right now, it's got prolonged, and they're probably in a battle of arguing back and forth, and we don't like to argue anything. I'm not going to have an argument or try to educate anybody. I just want out of here. So I'm going to keep motioning to dismiss. Where's the subject matter jurisdiction? It has to be proven on the record, and he didn't do that, and so we're just praying for him. We're praying for him. That's where we're at.
Well, the other thing, too, is it's very hard to get to him, so you can't advise him.
Yeah, we had sent a letter ahead of time and said, please do this. And, of course, I highly doubt he really even got it. But we tried to advise as soon as we heard. I went through every single thing he had and said, here's what I see. Here's what I would do from here, trying.
Well, none of the people around him in his immediate family or friends circle, none of them are prosecuting the guy on the bench and the prosecutor. So
yeah, that's the other thing. He should be going straight to the DA as a man and say, "Who's the man with the claim? Your name." Let's say his name's Eric. Eric, you got a claim against me because you're bringing it to court. You got a false claim and you got a false claim. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in on a superior court into a court of record with my claim, not a complaint. Because complaints, wait. I'm very much complaining, and I want a judge to tell me what I think. And does anybody want to talk about this? No, I have a claim, and you dispute this claim. And then the same thing how we were talking about earlier, it's a 3-part process. And 3-part process really does not actually apply in a court of record because it's common law. However, you as the decreeing the law, as the sovereign, you actually can decree, I'm going to use UCC, which they all recognize in every court because that's the court. That's what they're doing is UCC. They're all doing commercial law against you. So that's what I would do.
Well, it's a commercial
process. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Exactly. And they won't admit it, but if you slip the paper, they will.
Is this your Dun & Bradstreet number? Is this you, the manager of this corporation? Was this you? Right. No, the other thing, too.
We don't try to do that.
everything that you're saying is true, and there's more. But the reason it's a little different for me isn't to be in conflict with you. It's that I have a different philosophy, and it's not different from you. Your explanation was right on the money. So make sure your listeners hear that. Me, I'm a very rigid, disciplined man. I have nothing to do with Federal Reserve. I don't charge money on anything. I don't write anything. I don't sign anything. I don't use FRNs. I don't have people send me, send me money. I'll send you this. That's what he was doing. He wanted to be out of the system, but then he was playing in it. And if you want to have someone pay you, do not have them pay you in Federal Reserve notes.
Yeah, and you know why? Because those Federal Reserve notes have 2 signatures on the bottom, and they are a contract of a society that you're not supposed to be part of. And so you don't have the right. You don't have the right to use that privilege.
That's right.
You're actually an enemy of the state if you use it.
It's their money. It's their stuff. It's their dollars.
Right.
It's all their copyright.
Monopoly board.
Yeah, that's their property.
Right. I am rigidly disciplined about that. I'm not interested.
Now, we do have a different take. We say if you have a sovereignty certificate signed by two people in your own republic, signed by an exchanger grantor of a trust, a pure common law trust, then you actually can have the sovereignty, which will give you the right to use the privilege. So there's two different down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I have
and have that benefit without getting.
Yeah. See, but my way of life is not for everybody, so it's not really advice.
In general, we're going to agree with you on that. In general, there is though that little outs with the sovereignty certificate.
Can you explain it again, Zeeka? Because I lost you a bit. The audio got a bit
okay.
sparse.
I was just saying that if you have a sovereignty certificate, see, they're having two signatures that's signed by the society, right? And if you have a sovereignty certificate, it trumps any government. You are the source of the law, and so therefore you would have the right to use the privilege. Right now, anybody going and using it without a sovereignty certificate is not using they're using a privilege without the right to use the privilege.
Are you familiar with Bond versus United States, Zeeka?
Yes, I am.
All right, yeah. I have.
They couldn't grant the jurisdiction. Yeah.
Well, I have. I have the opinions of the justices on that, and demonstrates that the people are the sovereign, and the sovereignty lies in the people. And Uncle Sam, or a state of, has no sovereignty because they're insolvent.
Right.
So,
yep.
They're definitely insolvent.
Well, and Brian has something there too that says what the people is, and that the people is the crown. And it's straight from Sean Denny, who was the advisor to Ronald Reagan, and he explains on the Illinois Attorney General's website that the crown is the people translates to the crown, and that the crown is in common law has the powers. The Attorney General, under the powers of the crown, has the right. Has the courts are there to, what did it say? Protect the property and revenue of the crown. So the people is the crown. Okay, great. So
but you have to be one of the people and not one of the persons. You know?
We look at it like this. We think that the people is actually the crown. But if you were to go into a court of law and you want your rights, say, hey, I'm one of the people. Because what are they going to do? Say, oh, no, that's really the crown? No. Just say it. Say, I'm one of the people. The people are sovereign. That's what we do. I'm one of the people.
You know what it is you guys should contact me, or we should get in contact with each other after the show.
Let's do it.
Tonight, but we have a lot of stuff we could exchange with each other because I'm really
that'd be awesome.
Spread the word, and I don't want anything.
No, it's all down the same rabbit hole, and we all got to get all these facts straight.
David's a great one to have a conversation with. We've had many discussions, and then I ran into you guys, and then I hadn't talked to David in a few weeks, but wow, we've had some very long discussions. He's a great guy to talk.
Nice.
His knowledge of law and history is just.
Well, when we're not on the air, we can have a lot more fun.
Yeah.
We have to. This has to be good for the living room and PG and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no pussyfooting around.
We always say we're working with and not against. I don't have any.
We have got to get this stuff out in such a way that people can, that's my biggest problem. That's the toughest battle. Isn't even the courts, the bar, is the people. They're scary. I think we should. Forget the middleman. Cut out Coke and Pepsi. Let's just go straight for the fluoride.
And really, the people have to unlearn everything they've already learned.
Yeah.
In the society,
including their fear.
They have no clue. Yeah, and it's all fear based. So you're
Boy,
right.
They sure do know all those batting averages, though, and they know all the score history of all the basketball and football teams.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, some of that stuff's a bit simpler than this. Actually, changing the meaning of every term you've been taught. That it gets confusing. And
how do we get everybody to be obsessive compulsive about learning?
You can't. You got to make it simple for them. Give them the whole list of terms that they need and everything. That's what we're working on right now.
Layman's terms.
Yeah, here's the Encyclopedia Britannica on a fortune cookie.
Exactly.
Yeah. But this network I'm setting up, MakingADifference.tv, is actually a teaching network, so it'll be a great place to get you on there too, David, because Neko and Zeeka are going to do a show there. We need to get the message out and maybe have people call in too and ask questions. It's not a simple thing to relearn all the terminology and how to represent yourself in court on different issues, and maybe
you don't want to go in the
court. Masters.
That's the thing.
We're with David on that.
Yeah, let's try to get out of court.
They'll razzle
the only reason I go in there is because they don't want me in there. I make things so that I say things they don't want to hear, and I ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we say debate everything ahead of time.
Yeah, just debate it.
Every single thing ahead of time. Do it with notary protest. Do anything you can to not have to go in there. You make your record ahead of time.
And stay in honor.
Yep.
Well, usually when I'm in there, I'm in there for someone else. The last time I spoke at a court was in New York, and the court attorney, magistrate, whatever you want to call him, he says to me, "Well, I went to law school. Did you?" I said, "Well, quite honestly, if you went to school in North America, you never went to law school. Also, these two attorneys over here, and wait a minute, you're an attorney and they're attorneys. This is like the Mickey Mouse Club. They have unrebutted affidavits that I sent to them. So we can't talk about anything until we address those unrebutted affidavits. And by the way, I brought this to U.S. District Court. Not that I have any trust in those bar attorneys, but I want to put Frick and Frack over here on the witness stand under oath. Okay, because I don't want, they're attorneys, and I don't believe anything that they have to say. That's why I want them to raise their hand and testify under oath.
We won't let an attorney testify. So we say, objection, Your Honor. Do they have firsthand knowledge? And then they'll say, no. And so then sit down. You have no right to put anything, press anything. Press it. You cannot press your testimony on the record. I object. And then if the judge will not sustain that objection, then you say, Your Honor, I need this on the record. Is it sustained or not? And he usually moves forward and won't answer. And then if he will not answer, you need to take exception so that the person can appeal. Which usually, if we're trying to go into a court of law, a court of record, which is a real court of law, there is no appeal. So that's how you know whether you're in a court of record or not. But let's just say you're still in their jurisdiction. Your Honor, I take exception to the judge's refusal to put this on the record, my objection on the record, because I need to be able to appeal. And then
I agree with what you're saying. It would be fun if you and I talk, because we have very different methods. Even though
I know it's totally
you're saying
real simple.
But I have a tendency to start to incriminate the guy on the bench, because I say, he's trying to talk for a real party of interest that doesn't exist, which is
that's what we say. That's the same thing. It's a third-party interloper.
And now, and what you're talking about are Federal Rules of Evidence 601, 602, and 603. And then I say to the judge on the bench, that's when I tell him, and you're sitting up there pretending to believe them while they're perpetrating fraud and conspiring to perpetrate fraud.
It's a total conspiracy.
It is.
It's so
you are
bunk.
in with both feet in a thing called RICO. Okay? Now, you've been informed, foreign on the record. And then when they start talking, I tell them, look, I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here for the stenographer, because I want her to give me what I need to fry you later. You say and do what you want. Have a martini lunch, do whatever you want. And then tomorrow's my day. Okay? Because I'm not interested. And then they like to ask me questions. And I say, I have to ask the question, because I am not trustee. You're trustee. Foreign on the record, Madam Stenographer, Judge Schmidlop is the trustee. And then, by the way, you're fired as administrator for breach of fiduciary duty. So you're here to do, as I explain, what you need to do for my property. You cannot act as if I'm trustee. I am the beneficiary and the grantor to this estate.
They try to flip it around to where you're the trustee and they're the beneficiary, and they try to twist it on you, and you got they only can get away with it if you give consent,
You put up the right hand and you say overruled, null and void. No. No.
Exactly.
And then notice how they call the indictment a true bill.
Yeah.
So then they're bringing you into under Uniform Commercial Code with their true bill.
Wait a minute. Where is the true bill? You're making charges. If I charge you for services rendered, I have to give you where's the bill? Why is
who do I owe?
And
Who
where's
do I-
the item? Where's the itemized parts on this bill? This is obscure. And so under Uniform Commercial Code, they have that you can't put. They can't if they sign it, which they sign the indictment. They can't sign the true bill without giving reasons not consistent with dishonor. So then they write this tripe up on the top, and it'll be like super overview. It doesn't really get into details, and then they give you an indictment, but it's not consistent with dishonor, so you dishonor the whole thing.
Exactly.
And then that's how you bait it.
For your benefit, you guys, for your in what you're saying, I'm agreeing with it. But what I'm trying to tell you is before you decide to go in there, have them already bound by 3 notary presentments and international law notices the claim without United States and Admiralty.
Yeah,
So
but take one of those presentments. Take one of those presentments with all of their paperwork and have all their paperwork dishonored, and see if by the time it gets through all of those things, if they haven't acquiesced to your dishonor.
Okay, guys, can we this is great shop talk and everything, but can we move on to another issue?
Yeah.
Because
hey,
this is
shop talk for
America, like a private strategic discussion. I'm not sure everybody's.
That is for everybody, though.
That is
for everybody. If
we're holding court. We're holding court right now.
Shop of America.
That is the process, though.
But I think most people need a little bit more education to follow what you're saying. Let's get on to this. One of the other issues that I wanted to bring up was Judge Anna von Ritzinger and what she's been doing with this, trying to get people to lay claim to their state. So some sort of constitutional battle over jurisdiction. Maybe you could.
There's a reason for that.
David, do you want to explain what that was about? Because you were supporting your initiative on that.
Yeah, let's get to the brass tacks first. The Governmental Services Agency, a la Rothschild balloon head extraordinaire of France, decided that because they're in bankruptcy, that they're going to claim the United States and America as its asset because the people have abandoned it. Well, the people have not abandoned it. So we need 2 people from each state to claim things. And when I say state, I use that a little loosely. There really are only 13 states. The rest are all these McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, Walmart. That's what they are. And so they're trying to set up a de jure. I didn't join in with it, and the only reason I didn't is because I spent more of an effort alerting the general population to get 2 people from each state on my own. I already am one of the signers for the Union State Project for the original 13 colonies from about 4 or 5 years ago. And then the people that were working with us on that, and it started to have internal problems or whatever.
But isn't Judge Anna suing the United States for trillions of?
Well, no, there are other people doing that. She talks about it. She's involved with it peripherally, but what it is they put a massive lien on the ABA and the IBA.
ABA, IBA, what?
International Bar Association and the American Bar.
Okay.
Right, and then a couple of bazillion against the Federal Reserve, and that's one of the things that got Winston Shroud into trouble. By the way, everything else that they're doing is nonsense. They know it. So similarly, not exactly the same nature, but the people who are arrested in Oregon and Nevada, that's all nonsense. They know it. What it is they don't want people to take control of their satanic little one world government. So it's the mafia. You're not dealing with law. You're wasting your time when you argue law with them. In my personal opinion, and it's an opinion meaning not necessarily a fact, but based upon that which I honestly believe is fact, is when you walk into the court or whatever, You make sure that you have something hanging over the guy on the bench's head, his wife, his hair cutter, his landscaper, because when he spends his money in fraud, it's no longer his, so he can't steal your car and sell it to someone, and that someone expect to keep it. So what you do is you start prosecuting the hell out of them, and then you start leaning them after they agree in contract. You don't just go and start leaning people. That's stupid, and you're going to get yourself into trouble because there's a proper way of doing things. And you can do it through their own courts. Not that I recommend their courts. I'm not doing that. But what you want to do is you want to set the jackass in the black robe up in the U.S. court up for disaster also, and the clerk. Now, it's not a court. It's not a law. It's not a country. It's a mafia. It's the Zionist Jesuits. And it's the Crown Vatican Swiss Bank Mafia. And that's who you're dealing with. And the reason that they're getting away with what they're getting away with is because the people won't rise against them. When they arrest people like Bundy, shoot Lavoy Finicum, what should happen is across America, and I'm going to say this for everyone's benefit, and no matter who's listening, Federal Reserve Act remedy. It's on Facebook. Go there and watch the first top pinned video. Its video is called Federal Reserve Act Remedy. Shut the IRS off. Now, if every time they do something like this, 500,000 more people shut off the IRS, that will get these money-hungry cash register as their musical instrument psychos attention. Because that's what's happening. Everyone is paying these people while they're complaining. So everyone can shut off their taxes the lawful way because you don't have income. You're using debt instruments. They owe you the money. Okay? Plus, you're supposed to use Treasury notes, U.S. notes, and you do that by your booking entry. The remedy is 12 U.S.C. 411, United States Code 411, for lawful money. And that's how you do it. It's in the video. It's 33 minutes by David Merrill, Federal Reserve Act remedy. Go there, shut off your taxes, and get their attention. But every time I mention it, I watch, and you're lucky if 1 in 10,000 people will do it. So this is a game changer for me. You know, we have a show here. We're talking tonight. And we're informing the people. But, you know, the grim, harsh reality is we're talking to a lot of zombies. They're not interested in doing anything. They're the keyboard warriors, you know. They want to read articles. They want to post and share. But get them down there to do something? Good luck, right? So Winston Shroud, the people who are around him should be hanging something over their heads. He put in I forget, I have to make up the number, but it's massive. It's something like trillions or quadrillions of dollars against the
100 trillion.
federal, something like that. Yeah, it's big. Which, you know, I can still visualize real numbers, even though it's a big number. It's not hard once you have a pattern way of looking at things in mathematics. But no one's helping him. No one's helping him. And it's just like Bundy. I can't even get through to the Bundys, and I know people who know him, and they have a mentality that's very difficult to follow. Winston Shroud did a lot of things wrong. A lot of things. He can stop. What he needs to do is to sit in his cell or get someone to write for him and start hanging the prosecutor. I mean, just start leaning him and his wife into the divorce court and just wipe them out, liquidate them. And then you could get a common law jury together. If they could get a common law jury together of not of U.S. citizens now, but of people who have corrected their status as secure creditors, and basically decide to convict, and then once they're convicted of a felony, then you get these balloon heads and you go to Dun and Bradstreet and Standard and Poor and other similar agencies, and you start reporting them as convicted felons and ruin them. There's many ways to ruin people. And even if you stretch this show for 4 hours, I could go on for 16 hours on how to take them apart.
I'm sure you could. Okay, let's get Neko and Zeeka's view of this case, Judge Anna von Ritzinger's case, where she asked 2 people from every state to go claim the republic. I believe that was her initiative. Clarify.
Yeah, I think she's trying to put everybody back in the republic, and so they're trying to take them out of the democracy, reestablish the republic. But I am confused because I thought that there's a couple groups that were doing it for a long time. So one of them is a few years old, and they're the National Liberty Alliance, and they already have a bunch of people on the ground. So I was really confused what's going on, why she's doing that, because I thought there was already 2 people in each state that already is sitting, and they've already created their common law courts, and I mean, there's like a whole bunch of them. If you go, it's National Liberty Alliance.
One of the state coordinators for New Hampshire.
Right.
I constituted the New Hampshire common law jury under the NLA 3 years ago. 3 years ago, March.
Okay.
And
so, do they not have enough people on the ground, or what's going on with that?
Well, we have about 30 members in New Hampshire, and
I was looking on their site. They said a few thousand. Did they say 5,000?
That's what?
I thought I heard 5. I was reading on their site. I think it was either 3,000 or 5,000 they were claiming was already signed up, and I was like, well, that's way more than 2 per state.
New Hampshire. Yeah. Well,
no, I'm saying cross country.
To do this county-wide. Now, the new National Liberty Alliance isn't about the jury. It's about organizing people to get them started. See, the people put too much weight into the NLA, and there's a lot of infighting now between the founder of the NLA and Anna von Reitz. And I have to agree.
I don't know much about them.
Right. You can't be a U.S. citizen and be on a common law jury. And you know this.
Right.
You know this, but how do you explain to a fish that he's wet? Okay? It doesn't work. And if you have to explain it
should be sovereign.
You got to. I'll tell you, the population is the problem. So we have about 30 members.
We agree with that.
Yeah. But you go to the meetings, and to get them to actually convene to hear something, suddenly, the pizza is coming in an hour, and my dog chewed up my homework, and all that.
Well, maybe it needs to be like kind of how Brian Porter's saying, how small communities, and then we were thinking, if everybody would go in and do kind of what the Indians, and they want to reclaim their land in Aloydium. And if people will just say, screw this whole freaking United States, I don't want to learn one thing about your crap. I want to make up my own. And then maybe say, we know that the whole world is ran by the United Nations. I don't care what anybody thinks about it. There's laws there that actually protect man and people. So why don't we use those treaty laws and create mini societies, because they will recognize societies as being sovereign. And they can't take away the rights of... Yeah, I think that would be the easiest
way.
Brian
turned me on to
make up your own damn laws. Because the sovereign decrees the law.
Brian turned me on.
Okay, one at a time, guys.
What was that document you sent me, Brian? The international treaty under the UN? ICPPS or something?
Oh, the rights of nature?
Yeah.
Yeah, now, there's a guy named Sean O'Keefe. Are you familiar with him? Hang on a second. Okay. Hello. The guy named Sean O'Keefe that made a video show. Oh, Hank, hello. Hello. Speak. What's the matter?
So we think that's the easiest way. Just start over.
Okay.
Screw the rest of it.
He three videos. 3 times he tried to expatriate and remove his citizenship and U.S. citizenship, and 3 times they denied him. They want that estate trust. Why would they want to hold on to someone as a citizen? It's simple. It's not that they want your citizenship. They want that estate trust, and they want to be able to kill you and liquidate it.
Yeah, but
They won't,
check this
they won't,
out. So if you ask them if you're a citizen or if you want anything from them, they're going to say, no, I've got this rights. Why not ask them and just explain, oh, here's my treaty of my society. I didn't even ask the question whether I'm a citizen or not because it's so quite apparent that I'm not a citizen and screw your crap. Here's mine. Here's mine. It's right there. It's decreed from the sovereign. Who's got anybody to say about this? Here's 3-part process. It's at The Hague now. Screw y'all. That's where we're at.
well, that's The Hague,
Well, they're recognizing it. That's the point.
the UN
they're recognizing the treaties is the whole point of that. So we're just saying use the laws that are here for protection of the rights of people and just ignore any laws that don't have a damn thing to do with you. They don't have anything to do with us. So why are we asking them if I'm a citizen or not? I'm not going to ask you crap. You don't have the right to even answer me.
Something has
See what I'm
to
saying?
happen. Something has to happen,
Yeah. So you're saying you're saying you want people to basically establish sovereign communities.
Yeah, I think so. We're thinking about it, and you brought up the point the other day of the allodial titles for the native, actual Indians.
Yeah, let's get into that because David was involved in this case with a native leader, Nini, who's been fighting to address some issues with land ownership down in the U.S. And actually, I thought we'd spend more time on that, but we sort of got onto other issues. But what's your view on that? The First Nations people have the insight on that, right? It's easier for them to establish their rights.
A allodial title cannot be held by anybody but a sovereign, and no one's going to say that somebody who's a tribal member or a Indian is not sovereign. But now they're quasi-sovereign because they keep getting contracts. And now in the contracts, we were just reading not very long ago, and because they took the contract, now they're quasi-sovereign. Well, you got screwed. Don't sign the contracts. Make your own. That's all we're saying.
Where Nee is up in upstate New York, as he calls it, the head of the Turtle Island. And the Iroquois have managed the police and all of the leaders up there. They've managed to all become Knights of Columbus and Masons. Hello. Then they have this patriarchal society thing going on, when really it's the clan mothers, the tribal leaders, the elders of the clan mothers, the elderly women are supposed to be running things. It's supposed to be a matriarchal society, not a patriarchal society. And they've been Vaticanized. And the churches, like they have up in Canada, and you mentioned Kevin and Ed, the churches, these 501c3 foundation buildings on these reservations, in order to establish, they have to bury the truth. And that means to bury the red man. They're killing the people in the church.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that.
Well, it's thousands and thousands. And what the people are trying to coexist with murderers and thieves and satanic nutcakes. And that's what we need to do away with. That's our enemy.
Yeah.
That is the enemy.
Hard, because you could have all your paperwork straight and everything straight, but if they're a psychopath and come and try to kill you,
they do have NATO.
It really stinks, Yeah.
They do have NATO.
And right here in America, we have the Mossad. The Israelis run the Pentagon with the Jesuits. They run the banks, they run the military, and they run the police. Now the Department of Homeland Security has provisions that if you take federal money, you are, in fact, going to have your local police trained by the Mossad. And a lot of them are going to Israel, where they have murdering Palestinians as the way of life.
Okay. Well, I know there's not very much time left, but I did want to ask, I thought Turtle Island was already sovereign and was not, they say, this is Canada, but it's really Turtle Island. And Turtle Island is actually sovereign, as far as I understand. Why are they having to get allodial titles as Indians on the sovereign land?
Because they want to tell you out of one side of their mouth that you're sovereign, and on the other side of the mouth you're a captive.
So it's quasi-sovereignty because they maybe entered contracts or something?
Look, I know this is terrible stuff, but the problem is that the people forgot how to kill their enemy. I have a friend who's a historian from Italy. He's an old guy. And he says, what really killed the Roman Empire? He goes, to tell you the truth, David, we stopped killing our enemies. We started to try to coexist with them. And then they lived to kill us. Okay? They were trying to coexist with the Huns and the other people in the outer reaches of the Roman Empire. They should have just killed them, as he said. And I'm not endorsing that. But what I am saying is, over here, the satanic sickos that are bringing all these refugees here want them to start warring against us. And they're going to start the wars and killing us here. Okay? And the people are just sitting there, twiddling their thumbs and playing with them.
So, what do you think is the solution?
Honestly, the people need to rise up and basically arrest everyone in every state house. They're all bar attorneys. You're not allowed to be a bar attorney and hold an office of trust, period. The Office of Legislative Services at each state house is the one writing all of the statutes and codes. And they're writing it so that the people... What's that?
What about if everybody, instead of doing that, what if they just came in peacefully with a bunch of paperwork and said, here's my frickin' allodial title. Who's got the claim to my property?
Well, you got to get the jackass bar attorneys at the county to do it.
Well,
they
I
won't
object.
do it.
Do you have firsthand knowledge? Sit down.
They won't do
I'm
it.
talking to any damn attorney. They're a third-party interloper. They cannot talk to me.
They won't do what you want them to do.
They don't have to do what I want them to do. Like you said, it's already on the paperwork.
Yeah, but
somebody's going to damn enforce something, and it ain't going to be an attorney.
The jackass in the black robe will call the U.S. Marshal, and he'll go out to your house with 10 guys dressed in black.
But you're going back to U.S. when we need to go to international law. So I would come in and under UCC, international private law.
You know where UCC was written, don't you?
Damn straight I do. and I don't have a copyright to use it. However, they're all using it, and that's the words that they're hearing. Those are the presentments, the drafts, the orders. They're using commercial banking.
Well, can I just ask David to answer the question he asked? Where was the UCC written?
Yes, the UCC is written by the Bar, London Bar, and it was written in 1930s and published in 1952.
That's the Vatican.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. So
why don't you want to be heard? Yeah, but there's laws in there that say it has to harmonize to common law, and then all of the law and screw the UCC even. Treaty law still trumps everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
what are they doing in Palestine?
I just don't argue U.S. law because they're so beneath me.
What are they doing in Palestine? What are they doing in Palestine?
I have no idea.
They're murdering everybody. They murdered everybody in Iraq. They murdered all the people in Afghanistan. They murdered Libya because they don't have central banks and they have drugs and minerals. And what is the UN and what is the International Court doing? Nothing. Because they're owned and operated and financed by the murderers. What you have to do is you have 13 ruling families above the Vatican. You have House of Borgia, House of Orsini, House of Aldobrandini, House of Somalia, House of Breakspear, all them. You have to find these crazy people, round them up, and stick them in a hole somewhere. But everybody wants to coexist with the shark in the pool by putting on the blindfold. You know, there's a frog in Australia. If he closes his eyes, he acts like you can't see him either. Okay.
The opinions of David do not necessarily reflect upon Revolution Radio.
Well, I have been reading this my lifetime. Okay. And I'm going to tell you right now, you have the pharaonic bloodlines. The gray pope runs the black pope. The black pope is the Jesuit general, and he's over the white pope. Okay. Hello?
Yeah, but, just as a counter to what you're saying, David, there are some people who actually have managed to live independent, as independent as one can hope to, of the state. And they basically have set up some allodial trusts, and they are living free.
People have
without the privileges of the state. They basically provide all of what they need. So
I
You
hear
get
you.
your own confederation or federation or constitution, and you create your own laws, and then you go and enforce them. And you just call it a society. I don't care if it's 2 people or larger. It's
Or
just
city,
your own
right?
Well,
society.
you must be
City.
familiar with how many thousands of UN troops are pouring into the area.
I did read something about that.
Yeah.
I just saw it. I'm not there. I was hoping that wasn't true.
And there are
Apparently here
hundreds
in
of
Virginia.
FEMA camps, and they're getting ready to crash the buck.
I saw these incredibly well fortified new armored vehicles
Mm-hmm.
on a site today. I think it was published through the Liberty Beacon, and these are they're not aid vehicles, folks.
No, it's gonna hit the fan.
Man,
And they're going to shut off the electricity and the money, and pretty soon everyone's going to be out of food.
And
Okay.
they have this thing about the government is warehousing tons of food, and they also have the Georgia Guidestones, which represent what they want to get down to population-wise. And we all know that the government basically itself is about the number of people they want left.
yeah, oh yeah,
And
also
the
not only
numbers
that,
line up too well for my liking, folks. Yeah, that's why everybody wants to work for the government, because they figure it's the safest place to be.
Well, they certainly are going to throw their own people under the bus first. We have a problem, and I'm not able to explain well enough at all.
It's kind of like back in the war when Nazi Germany, they're going around asking for papers, please, and that's because they're checking status. They're like, who are you to kill, or who are you to camp or put in prison, and if you had to clarify your status with your papers. And so we're all about being in a contract society. We might as well use the law and at least try to get someone to hear and understand. So it's kind of like then, when they're coming around asking for your papers, identification, please, and so we say get a sovereignty certificate and be your own independent society, basically, and make your own rules. And when you have your papers and they ask, well, they know that you're of a different status and that they shouldn't touch you, and just stay out of their way and
be harmless. And that's the best. I mean, if they're going to kill you, they're going to kill you with NATO. Okay. So the best way is to at least be wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove, and don't look harmful, or they're just going to take you out.
Well, I agree with you. Again, the thing is what you're saying is right, but also we have to do something with our problem. Okay, we have a problem now. I worked my entire life in the aerospace defense industry, and every time I turn around, these jackass Israelis had their noses up your butt. Okay, and the general population has this psychotic delusion that these sociopaths are our allies while they're robbing everybody, stealing everyone's money and taxes. They run the IRS, they run the IMF, they run all of your state governments because it's all the Crown Temple Bar, and they're using your money, your labor, your sweat. They're using it to fund the murders of millions of people. And now they're killing you because they're GMOing your food. They're forcing your kids to have vaccinations. They're forcing you to sign birth certificates to hold you under martial law. The people need to rise up and grab anything that looks like a Zionist banker, stick him in a bag, and take him somewhere. There's an old Sicilian saying, when all your enemies are dead, you have no more enemies. We have a problem. We're trying to coexist with the guy that's eating us. They're eating us.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to get people to that point, though, of understanding, David, and resolve.
Well, and I mean, they've got NATO.
Well, yeah, but the people, there's 300 million people here. And I'm telling you,
they got
right
NATO.
now, you shut off their electricity. You shut off their electricity, and you shut their food off, and you're going to find all these big bad guys in the militias are going to be groveling around looking for grass to eat. Okay? In 3 days, people start to loot. In 10 days, they start to kill for food. And the troops are going to be armed. The troops are going to have their food. They're going to have their...
Well, that's what I said. They're warehousing food in the government offices. That's what I'm saying. The plan is, from what I can see, is that the government wants to survive the downturn. And they're basically keeping the goods to themselves. And it's going to be, the people are going to try to get it from the government. And they're going to have a hard time because the government's going to have lots of protection.
Well, what they need to do, like you guys are suggesting, is to get themselves straightened out, their allodial title, property, all that, and do something to hide. Because when it hits the fan, if you're on the surface, you have food stored away, your food's going to get confiscated.
Yeah, it's already part of the National Defense Authorization Act that in times of emergency, they can steal anything they need. What they say they need to survive, they can take it from you.
Of the land that they own, but not the allodial title land. I mean, they could do anything they want with guns. But they're technically not supposed to.
When a guy with the IQ of a fish comes with a gun and he's told to take you and you show him an allodial title, he's going to comprehend that about as well as he does the menu at McDonald's.
Yeah, we agree.
Right. So what it is somehow, really, we don't have the answer tonight, but what we need to do is to brainstorm, have a round table, and start talking about how we're going to wake these imbeciles up. I mean, turn on the television. Jerry Springer's show, Ellen DeGeneres, Oprah Winfrey, Dr. Phil, soap operas. I mean, The Price is Right. I mean, these are fluoride-gulping imbeciles. I mean, they're just totally...
Yeah, I think the process of natural selection is going to take its course.
Yeah, some of them are behind.
The people that are smart enough to see it coming and making preparations and, like you say, have a place to go. I haven't completely given up. I think Trump, if he's elected and allowed to live, he could make a difference. But
well, he's works for the same people. So we have Zionist Hillary, Zionist Rubio, Zionist Cruz, Zionist Trump. Who's left? It's Zionist Bernie Sanders. All right.
So you don't like Trump either, you know?
Well, he's another Zionist.
Yeah, I got no dogs in that race.
Right.
Yeah. Well, he's
that's
saying a lot of very progressive things, but I could say there's no guarantee that he would actually do anything he's saying.
Why did they call Clinton Slick Willie? Because he talked like a Republican when he was running, right? And then he gets in, and he's just a typical George Bush CIA puppet.
But I'm just curious about a question for our Costa Rican panelists here. Have you seen UN vehicles driving around in Costa Rica?
Not even close, no. But we did see them on the news before it's news yesterday.
There is no
going on in the United States. I don't know.
Costa Rica doesn't have a military.
Yeah, there's no military here, which is very
the
cool.
Citizens are the military.
Yeah, when the Spaniards tried to come in and conquest them, they kicked the Spaniards' butt. Nobody's tried to do anything since then, and they abolished it in the 40s. So, but I was going to say, I know the show's ending here in a second, but as far as the allodial titles go, it's super simple to have an allodial title, and there's really only one proper way that the governments of the world are actually recognizing, and we have that way. If anybody's interested, they can get a hold of us on that Soul Reign.
I would Soul Reign. I want to talk about that because I'm not allodial title, but I know people who are trying to do it with their
there's
homes
only one
before
way.
their homes are stolen with foreclosure.
Yeah, we're doing a record